Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale, the official coaches show of Saluki Athletics.
This is Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. I'm Larry Larson, now joined by women's basketball head coach Kelly Bond White. Coach, appreciate your time.
No problem. Glad to be here.
You know, kind of looking ahead, I know it's been a frustrating stretch, but you know, you look back at some of the games that we've seen recently, specifically Murray State, Belmont. We've seen a lot of jumps forward with this group. Where would you say this team has improved the most as we've entered conference play?
You know, probably when we do it, execution in terms of on both sides of the ball, and we graded ourselves on execution of the play by each individual. Did 5 people do their job? And if not, if you didn't do your job, subtract 1 from that. If you did your job, add it. And then shot selection, not if we made it, but was it strong? Was it uncontested? Was it in the paint? Was it an uncontested 3? And we graded ourselves that way. And I think when you hold them accountable to looking at it and saying, oh, wow, we did execute the first 4 plays. We did get great uncontested shots. We just missed it. The same shots we've been hitting all week. It takes a little less of the pressure off. It takes a little bit less of the anxiety of saying, now we got to do what we've done. Get back in the gym. Get back in the gym, knock down shots. Let's find a rhythm. Let's find what works for us. Let's throw out what isn't working. Same thing on the other side of the floor. Let's grade it. Do we have 5 people in the stands? What was your job defensively? Were you low eye, high eye? Did you rotate? Did we cover down through there? Did we just sprint the floor? So those are the things that I think when we're getting to it on film, it doesn't lie. You can't hide from it when you're in that room with your peers and your coaches, and neither can we. And so our thing for the day is holding each other and ourselves accountable, and it starts with that mirror.
You know, we chatted with Kayla Cooper about it, you know, later in the episode for Inside Saluki Athletics here about kind of playing free and having fun. And I know when the shots don't go in, especially for a group that's on the younger side, it can really be discouraging. How do you make sure that, you know, even though we're in the midst of a 7-game losing streak, and even though sometimes the shots don't fall, how do you make sure everybody keeps that even keel?
You know, you talk to them, and each one of them is different. But I had a moment in the ball game where I was able to chat with Kayla one-on-one, and I kind of put my hand on her shoulder. And we've been talking about the difference of eagles and chickens. and I said, one is a packed animal. One is in that pack, and it doesn't really fly. It doesn't fly. I said, but that eagle, when it spreads its wings, it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable because it's huge, and it's usually singular in that sky. And I said, so as you continue to climb, it can go to altitudes that everybody can't go to. And so with Kayla, she's a kid that needs a challenge. She's a kid that needs to be reminded constantly. TT's different. TT's different. She's not a freshman. She's in the program. She's not her first year in the program. She's come to understand, hey, this is what I do well. This is what I do well. And you know what? TT's a kid that's going to be the same if she was 1 for 10 yesterday or she was 8 for 10. Her effort is going to be the same. You can't look at the film and change that. Kayla's not that kid yet. It affects her in that kind of way, as it does many of our kids. So when you ask me, what do we try to do? We try to continue to push those buttons individually and let them know. Like you said, you got to play free. I said, what's the worst that could happen? We lose? What's the worst that could happen? Guys, guess what? We've experienced that. So now just go out there. Coach is going to yell, wave her hands, and do all that other stuff. I brought you here to be ball players, and that's what I need you to remember throughout the structure of the play, throughout the rotations on defense. Sometimes you got to go out and be a ball player.
You know, you bring up TT, I think motor comes to mind with TT. You know, she'll just play no matter what, and I think we saw that on Sunday for sure. Talking about another player who's continued to improve this season and has had a few ups and downs, but Alice Kerman continues to come along. What's the difference between game one, Alice Kerman down at Auburn versus now here in January, Alice Kerman?
You know, I think before I answer that, I want to note something that you hit the button on. Why I brought Alice here was that motor. And you saw it when we went to Dogs and she went and got that steal in front of their bench and then finished. You saw it on the train wreck collision on the charge, of how hard she can go because she's a kid that cares and she wants it. The biggest difference in between there, because if anybody watched our practice, I remember our football coach came in peeking and saying like, hey, that kid's a star. And she is. But there's a transition that has to happen for any freshman, much less one coming with a language barrier and some stuff like that. So the difference between day one is exactly what you said. Let go, Alice. You're holding on so tight that her dribble even changed. Even the mechanism of how she dribbled the ball changed from a free to almost a grind it out. And you're kind of seeing that breathing. First team I've ever done breathing exercises with before games. But it's just about letting go and playing. We know the kid can shoot. We know she has a vision. We know she can defend. But I think she's beginning to relax and just say, and it helped. It helped. Her parents came in for a week, and just to have that support system of knowing, just watching them play cards and just relax and just being a kid back in the family again. I think that helped her a little bit. She's starting to understand. She's starting to get to know her teammates, a little bit better. I don't worry about Alice because I know Alice is going to be a player, and I'll go as far as saying I think she'll be an all-conference player in this league at some point.
I mean, you could see the confidence from day one, and I think that confidence has definitely started to come back for her.
Yeah. Yep.
Over these last handful of games, the offense has started to click a little bit better before that roadblock at Missouri State.
Yep.
Who would you say has improved the most, maybe, especially on that offensive end over these last handful of games?
The numbers don't say a lot in terms of improvement when you're looking at it. In practice, without question, I think any of her teammates would say Kayla Cooper. Kayla has just been, when she doesn't hesitate, she's been shooting the leather off the ball. Um, and I think that's why you saw a portion of her get so dejected because, like, wait a minute, this has been going great. Like, I've been shooting, I've been doing this. And then when it didn't go in, that's how she was kind of defining herself, in that last game. But Kayla's somebody that has been coming along. Mia Gaines. Mia Gaines is another kid that, we brought her here to play. And everybody said, oh, Mia needs to play. Play Mia and Gift together. Well, they both got to know my offense from both spots for that to happen. But the matchups were a little bit more favorable for Mia. She's not out there chasing 5 players that shoot the 3. So she was able to get in and show a little bit of what she can do. And I know you ask offensively, but she can help change the game on both ends of it. From that standpoint, Sequoia had been giving us something, a little spark, off the bench when she's healthy. But the one that I need back, I got to get Isabella playing like she was playing earlier in the year. I thought she was ready to kind of separate herself and break off. And she struggled a little bit with the physicality of the game, but I think she's getting back to a point, even if the numbers didn't show it this last game, we've shown complete faith in her shooting the ball because she's proven that in practice. But I think the 3 that we've harped on the most, Kayla, TT, and Gift, are just folks that we have to have, every game.
No doubt. And you mentioned that physicality. Conference is just different, especially once you get into this schedule of 2-3 game weeks. It just turns up a notch, and sometimes that takes an extra bit of adjustment, right?
It does. It does. And I hope our kids don't get mad with school starting today and my men's practice team getting back here. They were mad at them early on about beating them up and being a little physical. Oh, I got a bruise. And they haven't even seen yet. They've seen some really good post players in our league, and they've seen, one of the best so far. But all these teams have them, and all these teams it's the Valley, so they're gonna be physical, and you got to be willing to step up to that.
Turning our attention to the road trip here this week, Indiana State and Evansville. Indiana State, brings back memories last year. That was a gutsy bounce back win after a tough loss at Evansville. Sycamores have struggled a little bit this year, but they just picked up that win over Evansville last week. What do you see on tape with Indiana State?
They're the most important team on our schedule, like I always say, because they're next up. They've proven that they can put points on the board when they get hot. They can hit you from the outside. They still have an interior where they can get into the paint, as well. We got to keep them off the boards. But I think that's the biggest thing is that they're just the next Valley team up. And whichever one you face night in and night out, they're going to give you your best. They're going to give you both of us are struggling overall. So who plays with the most heart, who smells the blood in the water and goes after it? Because from a talent standpoint, we're equal. We're equal. So it just depends on, it doesn't matter if we're at home, they're at home. It depends on who's going to decide to draw the line in the sand.
Yeah, I love that phrase, blood in the water. And I know we've talked about it a few times in our interviews this season because, teams can smell it when you're struggling, but at the end of the day, you put your shoes and shorts on the same way. And, I imagine once this team finds that win, it's going to go a long way. Just how much of a difference will that make?
It makes a huge difference. I talk to us, my drawings. You missed my drawing. You missed my drawing last game. But I ask our kids who was the fastest in the jungle. And they came back and said a cheetah, and they figured out that was a cheetah I was drawing. I asked them who was the biggest elephant. I said, who's the loudest? They said, hyena. And I forgot, when I said the smartest, I think they're all in the Mufasa and Lion King. So they said Iki, the monkey. And I said, okay, well, if all of those are the best characteristics of people, how in the heck is the lion the king of the jungle? And they're like, oh. I said, there's only one difference. I said, those guys look at the lion and they think run. And the lion looks at them and thinks lunch. But the biggest thing is, it's just not that he wants to eat. And we've all seen the National Geographics with the blood dripping and all of that. I said, the lion enjoys the hunt. And if you watch these shows, if you watch Lion King, who does the hunting? And they go, the women. I said, exactly. The lioness. There's a whole show about it. Lioness, great show, by the way. But I said, they're the ones doing the hunting. And I said, guess what? They're not just running out there singularly. They hunt in the pack. They're strategic about it. But the biggest part is they love the process. You guys just see the blood and the gore of the result of it's the process of the timing of the hunt to take down that elephant or to take down that giraffe that they're smaller than. But you got to love the process and you got to be willing to hunt. And when we do that, we'll take care of the outcome of the game.
I think for next episode, we'll have you play Pictionary, Coach.
Excellent. You better be on my team if we're playing Pictionary because my team's winning. Taboo, any of that.
All right. I'll be ready for it. Coach, more hunting this weekend, 6 p.m. tip-off at Indiana State. We'll talk to you then.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Coach. We've got more Inside Saluki Athletics coming up next, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. We're back on Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale, now joined by Kayla Cooper, the redshirt sophomore guard. Kayla, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first season in Carbondale, transferred from Oklahoma. A little bit colder here in Carbondale than Oklahoma this time of year, I imagine. How's the adjustment been for you in your first year?
It's been great so far. I would say this snow and ice is most definitely new. I'm a Texas girl, so we only really just get some ice, but watching snow pile up so high is very, very different for me. But overall, it is nice here, and I've been welcomed by a lot of amazing people, and the team is just great, as well as the coaches. So it's been a great transition.
And good Southern Illinois hospitality for sure.
Yes.
A big transition for you in terms of your 2 seasons at Oklahoma, injuries and other things like that kind of limited your playing time. I got to imagine it's a big adjustment going from not playing much to playing a whole ton of minutes here.
Yes.
What has that adjustment been like for you?
Adjustment has been just my mindset. Being able to last longer because sometimes I get like tired, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta keep going, gotta keep going. But just being able to uplift myself as well as the team and just continue to push even when I feel a little bit tired here and there. And just being able to make the right sound decisions when I feel tired sometimes. But overall, just in being in the moment, being present, enjoying every moment of it. Because I know 2 years ago I didn't have the opportunity. So just being thankful, having fun, and just playing the game I love with my teammates.
Lately you've started to fill it up as well, finding double figures. 3 of her last 4, I believe, before Sunday's game. What's clicked offensively?
Just my confidence. I think before I just felt a little timid. But I think honestly just getting in the gym more and just building up my confidence and being able to shoot the ball without thinking about either the make or the miss, just shooting it and just believing in myself after every time I do something, just having fun, honestly, and just enjoying it. Because I know sometimes when I make a shot, I just get all happy and jolly and just do whatever that comes to mind. And it's crazy because me, like a year ago, I just make a shot and I just run back. But I think, honestly, just truly having fun while playing has definitely helped me grow my confidence within myself. So,
That fun, it's definitely something you got to embrace. Got to play
yes,
fun.
for sure.
Um, New challenge for you this year. Obviously, you're more of a shooting guard type, but you've played a little more on the ball as a point guard.
Hmm.
What's that been like?
It's been fun. I think kind of setting up my other teammates. Like sometimes I'll set up a flare screen for Issa every now and then, but honestly, just trying to move without the ball because for so long I've been on the ball and having to move around that. So just expanding my game to learning how to play off the ball has been pretty well.
No doubt. Now, you got the chance to play back home. You mentioned you're a Texas girl.
Yes.
So back at UNT, that game, I was kind of right next to the Kayla Cooper fan section.
Yeah.
My whole friends and family making noise all game. What was
Yes.
that experience like getting to go back home and play in front of a big Kayla Cooper crowd?
It was amazing. I knew like before the game, I knew like 60 people were coming, and then just seeing everybody, it was like way more than 60 people. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so overwhelming. But I was so, so happy to be home, so happy to see my family and friends. It was truly very, very wholesome moment for me because that was the first time I really got to play in front of my family and friends while I'm in college. So just being able to have the opportunity to see everybody's smiling faces and cheer my name, it was fun, and it was hard not to look up. I did look up a couple times, and I wave, smile or something, but it was truly a unforgettable experience. I would love to do it again.
So players do hear when fans are cheering on the floor. Some people say they don't hear anything.
Well, I heard it. I must definitely heard it. I don't think I had a choice. They're right behind the bench, so it was right there.
Bringing it back to kind of the upcoming games here, road trip to Indiana, Indiana State on Thursday, and then Evansville on Sunday.
Mhm.
From your perspective, just how important are these next 2 games?
Honestly, they are important. But I think as long as we just play with heart and go out there and play as a team with confidence, I think we'll be okay. I think sometimes we just lose sight of um the dubs because we haven't really been on that track. But I think now this week is just trying to get back on track, trying to um go back into practice and see what we need to work on, and then having a mindset of no matter what, we're just going out with a dub. So
Well, Kayla, you said it earlier. It kind of comes down to playing free and having fun. So best of luck doing that this weekend. And thanks so much for chatting.
thank you for having me.
That's Kayla Cooper. We've got more Inside Saluki Athletics coming up next. We're back on Inside Saluki Athletics, now joined by sophomore guard T.T. Nelson out of St. Louis, one of SIU's most improved players here on the team this year. T.T., really appreciate your time.
No problem. Anything for you, Larry.
Of course, appreciate it. How do you evaluate your season so far? I mean, obviously, you take a huge jump from freshman year to sophomore year, but, as a whole, how would you say the season's gone for you?
My confidence became real better. I would say, last year I was just really, timid when it came to offense. And I feel like now I'm becoming, get out my shell and I'm more confident on both ends of the floor, not just defense as I was last year. And I think remembering, to have fun more. Because sometimes I feel like last year I was just, so caught up and, I got to do everything right. But just remember to have fun and you're going to make mistakes. So that's my little two-piece about it.
Always an important thing to remember for sure. Specifically with your offense, I was looking at the stats today. 39 points in 27 games last year. This year, 88 points in 13 games. That's not too bad. What specifically offensively did you work on in the offseason that has helped you develop into a lot more of a scorer?
Really just, getting to the basket, knowing I have a quick first step, so any change of pace or getting downhill, I can do it. Just don't worry about the contact. Just keep going through it. So that's really what I was doing over the summer and off season when the season ended last year.
In terms of your development, what do you think is kind of the next step for you to take your game to, an even higher level?
Me shooting better, getting confident in my shot again. And my free throws. My free throws been off. But really my shooting, getting back confident, shooting it and watching it go in. That's what I would say would be for my junior year, is me shooting the ball more.
No doubt. Taking a step back, we mentioned you're from St. Louis. St. Louis is a basketball town. When did you realize that, basketball was something that maybe you could do at a higher level than high school or just for fun?
Probably middle school. Middle school, I was still just having fun with it, just doing it because I was good at it, and I was doing it for so long. But as I realized how much I was traveling, I was traveling a lot in elementary school too. But I was just okay, it's getting pretty serious. So I just stuck with it. I was I'm gonna keep going.
Who would you say your biggest basketball inspirations are? Favorite players, favorite coaches?
I don't got a favorite player. I like a lot of players. I don't have a favorite one.
Fair enough. Kind of lastly, bringing it back to, the Salukis and the rest of the season. Big stretch coming up with this road trip to Indiana later this week. But for the rest of the season as a whole, what's your biggest goal?
Just continue playing tough. Everyone just playing together as a system. You're going to get upset with your teammates and they're going to get upset with you, but just sticking together, really. No matter the outcome, no matter the mistakes we make, just sticking together, no matter how hard it gets.
Well, TT, appreciate you taking a few minutes to chat. I know it's busy with classes starting back up here, hard to believe. We'll see you in Terre Haute on Thursday. Thank you.
Hit Pye with his left hand. He'll spin, going baseline right. Up, and the runner goes.
Nice move by Drew Steffi. A little spin move, went baseline. Got his guy hanging on his left hip.
King will be the inbounder. King looking for Missouri State. Goes far left corner. Taken away by Damien Mayo. Up ahead to Sharp. It's Sharp and Osei Bonsu. Sharp with a one-handed slam. He right-handed thundered that thing through. And Sharp makes it 16-9. And now all of a sudden, Saluki Nation getting behind the Dogs. Straight away with 10. Steffi now with 9. Right elbow with 8. Into the lane with 6. Nearly traveled. Hensley's open and he slams it in.
Beautiful pass by Drew Steffi. He was kind of dipsy doing inside, pivoting, and found an open Hensley alone for a great move.
Jerry Hensley, top of the key. Dribble hand off of Sheridan Sharp. Reverse the Diva. He was open momentarily. Goes low. Right block. Jarrett Hensley, baseline right, went up and in.
Southern on a 14-1 run. Man, they don't have much of an answer for Hensley.
8:55 to go here in the opening half. Sheridan Sharp trapped underneath the basket, finds Jarrett Hensley, comes to a crow hop, and then he goes up again. Man, Jarrett Hensley really playing off 2 feet here in the first half. 8:43 to go. It's a 9-point lead. Kennard Pagliai, but then Kennard comes away with it. SIU with the basketball. Middle of the floor, leading by 9. Skip past Drew Steffi. Corner 3. Bullseye! Drew Steffi from the far corner. Conzo Martin says timeout as Southern Illinois has its largest lead of conference play this year. Hampton now finds Chase Martin in the near far corner. Now goes middle of the lane. Martin, runner, short. Jarrett Hensley tapped the rebound to himself. Comes back near side. Kennard Davis. Kennard comes down right to left. Southern with a 4-point lead in the ball. Top of the key, Hensley. Transition 3 on its way. Jarrett Hensley. Nothing but net for Jarrett. He's got 14 in the opening half. And Southern increases the lead back to 7. Really lost it. Saved it with one hand. Now on the near wing. Kennard, top of the key. To his right elbow. Baseline right, Jarrett Hensley nearly falling down. Hensley trying to regain control. Up strong with his left hand. And Jarrett Hensley's got 16. And now a whistle and a timeout by Scott Nagy. 34-25, 9-point lead for Southern. Right behind Osei Bonsus, the smaller Sheridan Sharp. White rises from the nail, rimmed around and out. Jarrett Hensley gets the rebound with 2 hands. Jarrett Hensley for Southern. Ball in the lead, leading by 9. Near corner Mayo. Mayo shot fakes, drives. Low right hash into the middle of the lane. His left-handed shot won't go. Diba on the cleanup, off the glass for 2. That's Ali Diba's first 2 points of the game. Here comes Missouri State quickly in transition. 17:50 to go in the second half. Southern leading by 11. Brady around to Osei Bonsu's screen. Now low left block. Brady hesitates. He's trapped outside to White straight away with 15. White near wing in front of the Missouri State bench to Brady. Low left block. Osei Bonsu. Hook shot won't go. Osei Bonsu over the back of Hensley. It's lost out of bounds, though, to Southern Illinois.
Man, that's the play that Diba needed. He needed an offensive rebound stick back. That's all you need a lot of times for a score to get going.
Southern kind of quickly went tempo there for a moment as Sheridan Sharp brought it down. He's staying on the Saluki dog at midcourt. Lobbed it in the Mayo left elbow. Now it's Diba on the near wing. Diba, top of the key, Sheridan Sharp. Finds an open Mayo, middle of the zone. Right-handed floater goes for Damian Mayo. Scores his first 2 points against his former team. Near elbow. Low right block. Jarrett Hensley trying to go to work. Hensley spinning back out. Diba with 10. Diba middle lane with 8. Rises and it goes down. Ali Diba, he's got all of his 7 points here in the second half. Southern has to make crucial free throws.
Yep.
Especially when you get double bonus.
Got the best man at the line right now, that's for sure.
Hensley shooting 2, but he's already missed 1 free throw here tonight. Lefty on its way. Down the pipe it goes for Jarrett Hensley.
I thought that was a little negative by the play-by-play guy right there.
It's called stating a fact.
All right, so said.
Welcome back to Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by our friends at Pagliai of Carbondale. So great to have you with us. Thanks so much to Larry Larson and Saluki Women's Basketball. Head Coach Kelly Bond White for their portion of the show to start us off. Now Head Coach Scott Nagy joins us before we get on that plane to head over to Springfield to wrap up what it was this back-to-back with the Missouri State Bears. Coach, thanks so much for the time as always. And whenever you and I get to talk, it's much nicer when we can talk about really good wins at home in front of a good crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously for our players, I think that was good. I mean, I think we're starting to see some of the fruits of making some changes, and our offense is getting better. Our defense is slowly getting better.
The other side, Coach, talking with Drew Steffi after the game, Drew mentioned when he hits that 3 in overtime how he could feel just all the fans in the arena get behind him and how that gave him a boost. What it means for your players to really be supported by a fan base here that is behind you at all times, and how that can really help not just spark a guy like Drew, but, man, just with your team to be able to come back in overtime and win that game like you did on Saturday.
Yeah, our fans have been great, very supportive. I think understand a little bit of what we're going through. You're always going to have people that are upset. I get that, but for the most part, been very, very supportive, almost to the point where it makes me mad. Like I wish they wanted more from us right now instead of being so understanding, because that's kind of where I am, and so it. But it is much appreciated. We've got nice emails from people, and just to continue to encourage our guys, and I think that those things are important to our players for sure.
What have you seen Coach Nagy through the course of this year from man, when you guys started this thing, even back all the way to June to now when you think of it, what has you most encouraged about where this group has gotten better? Because a lot of the pieces have been interchangeable too with guys coming and going.
Yeah, there were things that I really thought when we first started this that we'd be very good at, and we're not to this point. Like, we're not a great rebounding team. But in order for us to be better offensively, we've had to play smaller. That makes it a little more difficult to rebound. But some of that stuff is just fundamentals too, in terms of being able to hit people, block out, creating better habits for our players. We're almost having to go backwards, really. I mean, we're spending so much of our practice still working on fundamentals. And if that's what we need to do, then that's what we're going to do. But it means we can't get to end of the game situations and so many other things that we need to work on. We're still stuck because our fundamentals aren't right. And I always tell a player, it doesn't matter how good your fundamentals are. If you don't have fight and you don't have passion, it doesn't matter. I would rather a kid have fight and passion and terrible fundamentals than great fundamentals and no life to them.
Coach, we've talked so much about this year, about guys, especially your senior leaders in terms of Ali Deba and Jarrett Hensley, and back-to-back 30-point games this week. It's the first time in the program since 1960-61 where there's been consecutive 30-point games during the course of the season.
Man,
there's been some really good basketball players. It's the first time that two in the same season have had two different Salukis have had a 30-point game since 05-06 when Jamal Tatum and Tony Young did it. But it's just ironic to me where a lot of our conversations this year have been around, man, some offensive struggles, and yet your guys have two of the 5 30-point games within the league this year, and, of course, they're back-to-back. How can those guys build off of it, but also, as we talked about after the game on Saturday against Missouri State, start bringing others along with them too?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you score 30 and you lose, or if you score 30 and we weren't very good offensively. It doesn't mean that we were good offensively. It means that you had a good offensive evening. But we're still just harping on not for the players to not value themselves in terms of how many points they score, because that's what everybody else around them does. But that's not what wins games. It just isn't. What wins games, consistently, is great defense and great rebounding.
For our fans, and you talk about the great rebounding, et cetera, and those things that you really emphasize with the guys day to day. Outside of that, Coach Nagy, what do you guys do from a culture standpoint, from an everyday standpoint of saying, hey, guys, these are our values, and this is what will dictate whether we get to where we want to go, versus those things like guys like me and others can bring up, hey, 30-point game since this and those other numbers. You guys really make it finite for your guys day to day.
Yeah, and you might find this strange, and I told the players this yesterday. I don't know what any of our guys are averaging points-wise. I don't know. I wouldn't have known the other night Jared scored 30 unless it was brought up to me. I didn't know Ali scored 30 points because I'm not paying attention to that. I don't. If I ever look at our team stats, I never look at who's averaging what, other than your rebounds, your turnovers. What we want our guys to do, and we continue to just talk about it, and I explain this to them. I mean, if you think you can play your way into our lineup at this point from an offensive standpoint, you can't do it. We just scored back-to-back games in the 80s. We don't need more offense. What we need is better defense. And so let that be your focus. I had a player a couple years ago, and I keep explaining this to him. 2 years ago, we had a kid that really, really struggled offensively. He's a pretty good offensive player, but he really struggled that year. And he, continued to shoot, and he just did not. He just had a bad year offensively. But we couldn't take him off the floor. We absolutely could not take him off the floor. He played 38 minutes a game for us because he could guard anybody. It never affected his defense. He was by far our best defender, and we just couldn't take him off the floor. And really none of our guys are hurting us offensively. But in order to be on the floor 38 minutes a game, you better be phenomenal defensively. And we have some guys that are capable of doing it that aren't doing it. And so, but you have to change your focus. You have to change your mindset. You have to, and it's so hard for any of the kids these days to do because they get so much attention for the scoring. Like you call home or call your girlfriend, how many points? That's the first question almost anybody's gonna have. How many points? How many shots you get? How many? It's all about that, and it's not about the team stuff. How did your team do? You know, how good were you guys defending? No, nobody ever talks about that stuff except the coaches. And so they're getting, you know, from one side here, but from every other side they're getting it from, it's you know, all about offense.
Coach, have you seen the response from Kennard like you've wanted to since obviously Illinois State, where he didn't play, in Bloomington Normal to come back, and not just necessarily the response on the court, but the response in other areas too?
Yeah, he's doing better. I still would like to see him be a better defender. I think, you know, he has such a reputation of being a tough guy, you know, and I got after him the other day. Like, you know, that's your rep. Like, let's earn that thing. But you know, now he's playing for a more offensive-minded guy, I think, than he did last year. You know, we're a little more free offensively, so he feels that. And so more of his focus goes to that, and he lets up on the defensive end. And I don't want him to, because he's could be a dominant defender, and he still needs to be that for us.
And he's been a really big rebounder for you in your recent games since he's –
Well, he had 10 the other night, and he didn't play well offensively, but I told him after the game, I don't care. I don't care, you know, that you struggle to make layups and that. You went and got us 10 rebounds. It's good that even though you struggled offensively, you still did other things for us. You can't just be – and I'm not just talking about him. I'm talking about all our guys. Are you a scorer? Well, definition of a scorer means if you're not scoring, you're hurting our team. And so we need you to be everything. If you're not scoring well, do the other things. Defend, rebound, be a good teammate. You know, and there are those days where offense is easy and there are days when it isn't. But the other things take some intentionality.
In games, Coach Nagy, where your team has had success, and obviously I put that with Missouri State as well, and even when you were making strides at Belmont and other games, Damian Mayo's been a big piece of that because he can affect a lot of different areas, even though, again, you may not look all the way to the right and see a ton of points, but how he touches the game and impacts winning in multiple ways. Where have you seen that grow for him, and where do you think he's at right now in terms of that impacting winning for your team in multiple ways?
I think he's getting much closer to why we brought him in here in terms of how hard he plays, his leadership. I think when he first got here, again, because of how I coach, and not just him, a lot of our guys like, oh, it's a chance for me to score. It's a chance, you know, and so your focus changes on who you are and, you know, who you've been, and you know, no matter what I say in terms of your value to the team, the guys all feel a little bit of freedom offensively and like, this is my chance to be a better offense. This is my chance to score more points. I think he was more offensive-minded early in the year. You know, we were playing him at some point. It's not a natural position for him. Once we got him off that and he quit just focusing on how many shots or whatever, I mean, he's been great. And, you know, he's one of those guys now, he's hard to take off the floor. And he's, you know, he's not scoring major points. At least I don't think he is. That's my whole point. I don't even look at it. But he's probably not. But he's doing the other things that we need him to do, and so that's why it's hard to get him off the floor. I don't need one guy on the floor because of their offense. That's not if that's why they're on the floor, then they don't need to be on the floor.
Missouri State, of course, brought pressure against you guys, and Sheridan Sharp, at least appeared to us, to handle it well when he was in games. He made crucial plays offensively for you, but also defensively too. Where have you seen Sheridan also grow from the guy where, hey, we're going to redshirt you, we need to redshirt you, to, hey, we got to pull this off, get you some playing time? How has Sheridan continued to evolve throughout the year, Coach?
Well, he's our one true ball handler. He just is, and he has a tendency to sometimes over dribble, but you know, he's going to see minutes for us, and so, but what we need him to do is just guard. You know, he can be a tremendous defender. He's a little bit light in the pants, I say. You know, he's a lightweight, but that doesn't mean you can't be a great defender. And sometimes he is. Sometimes he's really good, and then other times he can get all. It's the same with everybody. They get offensive minded, and if things aren't going well, it tends to affect the defensive end. And so we just continue to stay after our guys about those things. But yeah, I mean, him going into the year, I mean, it was a big adjustment for him, and he's done a great job.
We've talked in our pregame conversation since then. I know this is our first coaches show in about a month since pre-Christmas, but for those in Saluki Nation that may have missed it, you've made some changes internally, just in terms of like Coach Hawk being your defensive coordinator, kind of distributing your coaching out. You know, Javon kind of doing more of the substituting now than normal. How have those changes gone? How have you guys looked at it as a staff since you've made those changes?
It hadn't been easy for me, I can tell you, because I want more control of the game. But, you know, we had to make some changes. And I watched our team last year be so good offensively and so bad defensively, and then I watched this team be so bad defensively, and saying, well, wait a minute, what's the common denominator here? And that's me. And so, if it's bringing new ideas, whatever it is, I know Coach Hawk's a good defensive coach. I've turned that over to him. We've made some changes in that, and I'm trying as much as I can to stay out of it because it needs to be his terminology and those kind of things. But I think we're close to having been caught up with all of that. And Tay, Coach Gibbs is helping more with the offense, because we're just having to run more sets and more patterns with this team than I like. And so it's not really easy for me to keep up with that, like what we need to run. So Tay, while we're on defense, he's thinking through, like, what do we need to run next? What do we need? Because I've never done that. We let our guys play. We play motion. We play fast. With this team, we've had to slow down a little bit, run more sets, and so I've needed his help on that end.
And you also may need help, right, for what you're going to call your sets so your players know how to say their names. I know that was a funny part in practice yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, I took one play from way back, and it's a bit of an unusual name, and they were looking at me like I was crazy. But some
part
of
it.
Yeah, some of them couldn't even say it. So.
Yeah, but it just shows the humor with you guys. Kind of talk about your practice coach before we get you on your way, and talk about the differences you want to see with Missouri State come tomorrow when this thing gets tipped off in Springfield. Being at your practices each day and having that opportunity, been around different coaches, and sometimes practices can come monotonous. You do a lot of the same things. But really, as of the last couple of weeks, Coach Nagy, you and your staff have done a good job, I feel, of making practice different each day. There are obviously commonalities that you work on when you come in, but whether it's drill work, et cetera, there are different things that you are trying with this group. Have you liked that? Do you sense that also of how you've been able to really make practice different each day and work on different
They've been
things?
a little bit too long for me. They're less, I'm used to having more timed practices. We're going to do this drill for this long. So, turning over some of that stuff to Coach Hawkins and Tay, now I'm not in control of it, and they may want to work on some things and do it differently than I do, and I'm allowing them to do that. I would like to shorten it up a little bit, but I think the changes, like you say, have helped our players too, and it so that it doesn't become so monotonous. I just don't want them in there standing there going, look at their watch, going, when are we getting out of here?
Yeah, that's not fun for anybody,
No.
for sure. Coaches, we end it. Just looking at Missouri State, of course, you just saw them on Saturday. Biggest areas from what you communicate with your guys, we need this to improve from. Even though Saturday was a win, we got to do this better on Wednesday night to make sure that you guys can get back-to-back wins.
Well, we're still not good enough defensively, and now I think we're getting closer, but that is still the focus. You come to practice, you see that's where we spend almost all our time, and so that continues to be the focus. That we gave up 14 offensive rebounds. Now we had 14 offensive rebounds, so and we had some big ones, particularly in overtime. A couple of them that really helped us, but. We just there's still fundamentally things that we don't do very soundly. One of them is block out, and the other one is just positioning on the floor, depending on where your guy is and where the ball is. And so there's still just a lot of fundamentals that we're hammering away at that we should be really beyond at this point, but we're not.
Coach, appreciate the time. Let you get on your way, and we'll see you on the plane
Okay.
here in just a few hours. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Once again, that was head coach Scott Nagy. Join us here on Inside Saluki Athletics. That does it for this edition of Inside Saluki Athletics. You can watch the replay on all of our social channels. So for the coach, Scott Nagy, for Larry Larson with Kelly Bon White and everyone with Saluki Women's Basketball, I am Luke Martin saying so long, everybody. We will talk to you Wednesday night from Springfield, Missouri.
This has been Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.